It was almost exactly a year ago that we came up here to film to announce Terry's return to ESP. And in that time, in the last year, one of our main priorities was to develop a new range of rods bearing Terry's name. The Mark IIs were discontinued in 2011, and ever since then we've been asked countless times, have you got any of the 12.9s left? Do you know where I can get some? I bet you've been asked loads of times, haven't you?
Loads of times. I've got one or two of mates that are collectors of the old Mark 1s and Mark 2s. But yeah, you go on, I mean, they ended up selling more on eBay and whatever than what they was when they were new. You know what I mean? They were proper sought after.
Yeah, they became a bit of a cult classic, and rightly so, really, with good reason, because they were really top-end classic kart rods. And we've developed a couple of new models. This is the ones that Terry uses, 12'9", 3 1/4 classic with 40mm ringing. You've been testing these sort of getting on
the last year,
haven't you?
Yeah, mainly at Ashmead.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've caught some good fish in them. I got lucky enough, I caught that moon scale 3 times.
Yeah,
the second biggest. It would have been nice to be able to sort of swap 1 or 2 of the captures for the bigger, you know what I mean? But that's how it goes. I caught 2 of the bigger commons in there, the long common and JCs. I ended up with 5 fish over 40 pounds on the new rod. So yeah, perfect.
And on the 12'9", 3 1/4 classic model, we've stayed fairly faithful to the Mark II because it was such a perfect blank. All we'd really changed is the EVA collar on the front of the handle. But apart from that, and the woven finish, which is a slightly chunkier woven finish.
Just subtle cosmetic changes, isn't it? We had to have the little flared bit, you know.
Yeah, you like that, don't you?
Even more old school, you know what I mean? We've got, we changed the butt caps as well. Right. We've got slightly chunkier stainless ones with the little ESP logo engraved.
Hallmark full Duplon.
Yep, and not your average Duplon either, as mad as it sounds. You know, a lot of them are using the soft Duplon. Yeah. And I don't know if you remember what that was like. It was awful, wasn't it? You walk past a bramble bush or something, you know, and you end up scratching it, all shredded, like awful. So these are a toughened Duplon, which are a lot more resilient to that sort of stuff. And as an added bonus as well, they're a little bit more weighty as well, so it'll tend to balance out the rod better.
Yeah, so Fuji DPS reel seat, obviously the EVA cone, ESP line clip at the top of the handle, and it's got that sort of trademark cherry red tippet to the whip-in, which when you look at it you think that's a Terry Hearn rod. Chunky woven finish. On this classic model that Terry uses, it's got 40mm ringing, and the guides have got a nice chunky ceramic in. You like those, don't you?
I prefer that. I prefer the playing action. I find it a little bit smoother. Yeah. But obviously I know that a lot of people like 50mm rings and whatever, the 50mm butts, so at some stage, they've got that option as well. Yeah. But this is definitely my rod of choice. I like the 40mm butts with the original chunky ceramics. Yeah.
Now the other rod in the range is the 12'9", 3 1/2 distance model. It's a stepped up version of the classic. It still retains a nice fish playing action, but it's got greater reserves of power, especially in the butt. And during testing, we were achieving distances comfortably of 150 metres plus with a 4-ounce lead. So it can cast a long way, but it's still nice to play fish with. Now, 12'9's a little bit unusual. I mean, it was the classic of the Mark IIs, and we retained that length. Why do you prefer that?
Once you've used a 12'9, it's really difficult to go back to a 12-foot. That's all I know. And in the past, when I've played with 13-foots, you'd never imagine an extra 3 inches making that much of a difference, but I never liked them. 13-foot was just that bit too long. Yeah. But 12'9, and it was Pete's idea, if you remember. You know, it wasn't us. Yeah. It was Pete suggested doing a 12'9. I think we were all a little bit sceptical, but it turned out to be the right way. You know, it's definitely. I couldn't go back to a 12 now. having used 12.9s for all this time. And I think it gives you a bit extra range.
Yeah.
Definitely better when it comes to playing fish. It gives you a bit more reach as well. If you've got overhanging bushes and what have you each side of the swim, then that definitely helps. Yeah, reed beds, that sort of stuff.
And it seems that extra 9 inches definitely sort of mellows the action slightly.
Yeah.
So you can still have great reserves of power in the butt section, but that extra length, it just seems to give the perfect fish playing action, but you can still cast a long way. So it sort of covers everything really.
It's the first thing that anyone who ever has bought the Mark IIs, I can remember saying, the difference it made, that when they were playing a fish, how nice it was. You know, yeah, that extra 9 inches helps for chucking, but playing the fish is when you really notice it. It's just beautiful.
Pleasure, an absolute pleasure to play fish with. So that is the new range of Terry Hearn carp rods, the classic 12'9" 3¼ and the distance 12'9" 3½. They're going to be available in the shops very soon. Well worth checking out if you want some top-end classic carp rods.
Get on them.